Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a sports betting perspective, with pro handicappers Alex B. Smith and veteran sports writer Jimmy Murphy. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network. Monday, November 8th, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, Jimmy Murphy, and we'll have Andrew McInnis momentarily as well. The full crew on tap today for this Monday edition of the show, even though it's only a short card, only a three-game NHL card taking place here on this Monday, so we'll get to that in just a second. But I do want to mention something before we get into Monday's games. It's because we haven't had Alex this weekend on the show, so I wanted to mention this and talk about it a little, get his thoughts on it, because we haven't heard them yet on the show, what he thought of this. But obviously Chicago over the weekend makes the coaching change. Jeremy Colleton fired along with his staff. Derek King promoted from the AHL affiliate to take over. And sure enough, one game into the Derek King era, and it starts off on the good foot for the Chicago Blackhawks, a 2-1 overtime win against the Nashville Predators last night. And maybe one of the better defensive games I've seen out of the Blackhawks, and there haven't been too many that I've seen all year, was what I saw from them last night in that victory against Nashville. So maybe a sign that the Blackhawks maybe go on a little bit of a spurt here now with the coaching change. Alex, what were your thoughts on what took place with those Blackhawks over the weekend?
Yeah, well, that last game with Colleton as the coach was just absolutely dismal. I mean, the Hawks were lifeless. They only had 18 shots on goal. Never stood a chance at all against this Winnipeg team that, we've seen them have some lapses defensively. And so it was just, the writing was on the wall there at this point. It's time for him to go. I was shocked to kind of see that he was getting the boot, and that, Kyle Davidson would, that's kind of his first big move now as the interim GM. So now, like I said, it's going to be Derek King, who comes up from Rockford. He's going to be the coach for the rest of the season. Whoever they find, obviously, will be during the offseason, because more than likely they're going to be finding another GM as well. So it'll be a full clearing of house at that point. But obviously, like to see, the win coming out, for Derek King, his first game last night, the 2-1 game against Nashville in overtime. And like you said, the defense is going to be, the thing we look at moving forward. Although I would like to see this offense pick up. We know the kind of talent they have with those top four lines when they're healthy. So obviously, yes, play more mindful defensively, but at some point the offense still has to get rolling. You can't, win a whole bunch of games with this unit only scoring 2 and 3 goals. They need to get goals in bunches moving forward. But I like what I saw so far, at least on the back end, with King running things. So remains to see what was happening. I had Hawks yesterday, first period money line. It ended up being a push, but that was because of, just like we said, the defense. Both teams did have chances, but they weren't really trying to let things get out of control and slowing the puck down. So that's something to keep an eye on, as well as first period overs. Even though the Hawks are higher up in that chart, we might start seeing those taking a climb, and might have to start looking at unders potentially if they're a bit more defensive minded moving forward.
All right, definitely. There's going to be keep an eye on that Blackhawks team. We'll see if last night was an anomaly or if it was a sign of maybe them going on a little bit of a run here now after the coaching change. All right, let's go to Monday's games. We'll start with Florida and the New York Rangers to get it rolling here. We've got the Rangers. It's pretty much even money here, both sides, -110, 5.5 the total in this game. The Florida Panthers handing the Carolina Hurricanes their first loss of the season Saturday night, 5-2 victory in that game over the Hurricanes. Part of a best bet sweep for me over the weekend here on the show. We got best bet winners all weekend long on the Ice Guys show. The Friday best bet was a winner. The Saturday best bet was Florida Carolina over. The Sunday best bet was Chicago for me yesterday. So very, very good with the best bets over the weekend. Good to see those getting on a bit of a roll now for me the last few days on the show. We'll see if Florida can keep it rolling here. That was an impressive win against obviously an unblemished Carolina team. They jumped on Carolina in the first period, probably one of the worst periods Freddie Anderson's played in net for the Hurricanes this year. But nevertheless, Florida was very sharp from the onset of that game, and they win 5-2. And keep in mind, going into that game, they had Sam Bennett out. And now it looks like there's a good chance that Alexander Barkov may miss this game due to a lower body injury as well. And he also missed that game as well against Carolina. So makes that win even more impressive for the Panthers, but it also shows you the depth they have this year compared to past years. They can survive no Sam Bennett and no Barkov and still beat a quality team like Carolina. I'm not going to be one of those people that knee-jerk bets the Rangers here because of Florida's injuries. I mean, you look at the Rangers, they're not in a bet-on spot necessarily. They're off a long road trip that didn't end well, blew a lead to Vancouver, lost to Edmonton, and blew that lead, and the Connor McDavid show took over in the third period, and then they got smacked by Calgary in the worst game this year by far for Igor Shesterkin, who had looked pretty sharp in net before that. So, and now they're just back on a Monday after finishing the road trip in Calgary Saturday, barely 48 hours of downtime, and you got to play at home here. Tough spot for the New York Rangers, and this is the same spot I faded Buffalo in on Saturday. When they played Detroit, I said there was less than 48 hours between the Thursday game in Seattle and them getting back home and playing in Detroit Saturday night in Buffalo. I said that's a terrible turnaround time for the Sabres. And sure enough, they lost to Detroit Saturday night. So the Rangers are kind of in that same boat here. I haven't bet it yet. I'm going to wait, see if the line moves a little further on New York, but it's Florida pass for me, this number. What do you want here, or what do you think here, Alex, with Florida and the Rangers?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if I wish that the Rangers were in better form in this spot to try to, maybe catch a bit of a banged up Florida team, but I just can't back them right now the way they've been giving up goals in bunches. If anything, I might be possibly look at getting the first period over here, which is something that obviously hasn't cashed in much with the New York Rangers, just 2 of 10 on the season. But even with Florida, the pace that they have, and obviously going to have that next man up mentality with some of those forwards being missing, we could see some scoring back and forth early in this game, and then things kind of slow down a bit. So that would just be a lean for me, but I don't want anything to do with the side or a total here with a banged up Florida and a Rangers team that's just not in good form.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Looks like Jimmy Murphy, we got him with us here. He's been bouncing in and out here behind the scenes. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. But if you're listening on the podcast, yeah. But we got him now, Jimmy. And thanks to Jimmy again for joining us on Saturday. We had a great Saturday show this past weekend. Jimmy, what do you like here, Panthers, Rangers?
Yeah, it's an interesting game. I mean, two great teams right now playing some good hockey overall this season. But I'm going to lean with the Florida Panthers here on the money line. You're getting some good value, obviously, pretty much even there. And just, the Rangers are back from a long road trip, might be a little slow to get going. You can't be that way against the Florida Panthers with the offense they have. They could jump, a good point by Alex there, maybe get off to a really good start in the first period and not look back. So give me the Florida Panthers on the side.
All right, like in Florida here on the money line. My NHL season's turned around the last week and a half. It's been a much better week and a half. It was a slow start. I mean, no sugarcoating it. First few weeks were up and down. I mean, it seems like for the first 2-3 weeks solid, it was one up day, one down day, one up day, one down day. And but the last week and a half, I've gotten into a flow, gotten into a rhythm, put together a bunch of winning nights in a row. So it's been much better. And obviously the best bets have been good. So I'm starting to like the way things are turning for me in the NHL after the slow start, which has been good to see. Andrew McInnis, we welcome him back. Haven't seen him since last week. Good to have Andrew back. What do you think, Andrew, here? Panthers, Rangers.
Yeah, guys, good to be back here with you. And just to address, the comment there in live YouTube. So I'm pretty much very similar to Ian. It was a battle for just scraping by. A good day for me at the start of the NHL season was plus 1 unit or half a unit, and now a couple of good days in a row last week. Last week was definitely a good day to keep rolling. But looking at this game, guys, I think that people are kind of pulling the old, is that a fishy line? No, I don't think it's a fishy line. I think it's, I'll take it there with the Florida Panthers. I'm on the Panthers road favorites here. We got a team in New York that is off that road trip theory, and we always said, and we mentioned it last week on the podcast, that maybe it's not a theory to use unless the team is off a successful road trip. But I don't think in this scenario, I think that New York is better than the way they played, but Florida isn't the team to get right against on one day's rest. So give me a short price here. And also Florida, having that great game over the weekend, I think this team's going to keep rolling. And I don't think that the Rangers are a team to stop them. And just to touch on what Alex was saying about the first period, it's pretty impressive how both the Rangers and the Islanders, the two New York teams, first period under streaks have been crazy for them. But I think that might turn around. I agree with his play there on the first period over, because I think we'll see some sloppiness from the Rangers, and we still have so much talent. It's the same thing in hockey as other sports, but people don't really take it as serious because there's 4 lines. But I mean, look what happened in the NFL over the weekend. Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. Line moves to +7. Game's a absolute shit show, and the Packers cover. I mean, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden that one player out for the Florida Panthers, they're just a whole different team. The reason why they're so successful is because they have a real good amount of depth. And I'll keep saying this, guys, about the Panthers. I love how they literally have like almost a 50-50 shared goaltending, because it's going to help them come the end of the year.
Yeah, it will. It'll be Spencer Knight, by the way, because Bobrovsky's still injured. So we're not going to see Bobrovsky tonight or maybe anytime soon still. He's still out with the injury that he's dealing with. So it's going to be Spencer Knight once again for the Florida Panthers in net. And that's why it's good to have this kid. And that's unfortunate for Bobrovsky. Now, it's not a major injury. He's only day-to-day, but still, the way he had started the year, he had played very well for Bobrovsky. But that's why you got Spencer Knight, a very capable guy. Clear, and obviously the future of the goaltending position here for the Florida Panthers. Buffalo and Washington. We've got Washington -250, home favorites, 5.5 the total here in this one. Buffalo Sabres starting to play like we kind of thought they would coming into the year. Slowly but surely, the Sabres remembering they're the Sabres. 4 straight losses in their last 4 games to LA, to San Jose, to Seattle. At the end of that road trip, they lost the last 3 games of it, and then they come back home, and I took Detroit against Buffalo Saturday night, and the Red Wings won 4-3. I said, this is a terrible spot. You kidding me? Seattle on a Thursday night at the end of that West Coast swing, and then you're playing not even 48 hours later on Saturday night in Buffalo, and you're going to be even money against a hard-trying Detroit team. And I took the Red Wings there and paid off there in that one. I'm not rushing to back Buffalo right now. Again, 4 straight losses. And for Washington, they're definitely struggling too. They've lost 3 in a row. But you match up the 4 losses Buffalo has had, LA, San Jose, Seattle, and Detroit, to the 3 losses that Washington has had, Philly, Florida, and Tampa Bay. There's no comparison. Washington's losing to some really good hockey teams. That's the difference here. Buffalo isn't. Buffalo's losing to mediocre competition during their little skid. It feels like this should be a spot for Washington to bounce back strong, wake up, and be able to have a really good performance again here on home ice. And you look at recent series history, last year these teams played a bunch, obviously, because of the way the schedule was with the border being closed. And you look at many of the games, there's Washington scoring 4 goals, 6 goals, 3, 6, 4, 2. I think the bet I like here is the team total on Washington, over 3.5. -110. You could go a puck line if you want to. Certainly does have that feel of Washington, after 3 losses, although to good competition, bouncing back against a struggling Sabres team. It does bother me, though, that TJ Oshie's out, because this team just hasn't been clicking since he's been out, to be honest. You can trace back the losing streak to when TJ Oshie suffered that foot injury. So it does concern me a bit, but I think this is not the time for Washington to overlook a struggling Buffalo team after a couple of losses in a row. So I would lean to the puck line, but I think what I'll end up betting here is the team total for Washington, over 3.5 here, -110. And by the way, the Sabres, Anderson and Tokarski have struggled in net, and they've given up a grand total of 14 goals in their last 3 games combined to San Jose, Seattle, and Detroit. 14 goals in those games and 4+ goals in each game. So if we get 4 from Washington tonight, we're a winner with that team total. Alex, what do you think here? Buffalo, Washington.
Yeah, the only thing you could look at would be, like you mentioned, that team total over with the Caps. But I want nothing to do with either one of these teams, the performance they're playing, especially Buffalo. Like I said, I think we're finally seeing them regressing to their natural state, where this is definitely looks like a spot where Washington can bounce back. 3 losses in a row, but against much better competition than what we've seen from Buffalo, even in the height of their playing in the first couple of weeks. So it's a pass for me altogether.
No doubt. And Victor Olofsson, he's missed 4 straight games. It's not a coincidence that Buffalo's lost all 4 games. They miss Victor Olofsson's offense, and because they've got much less offensive depth than they've had in the past, especially on the power play with how well he can move the puck and finish around the net. And that's definitely been an impact injury here as well. And now Craig Anderson with the upper body injury that he's suffered. So probably we'll see Tokarski, even though it's not confirmed yet for Buffalo in net, but I think it's going to be him in between the pipes tonight. Jimmy, Buffalo, Washington.
Yeah, I got 2 plays on this, guys. I'm going to go with the Caps in regulation. get a little better value there. And then I'm also going to look at the over here, over 5.5. I think, look, no offense to Dustin Tokarski, but you put the big great Alex Ovechkin against him. He's going to light him up. I feel like that could be a good big night for him as well. I know you can't get much value playing a goal prop for him, but I could see him getting 1 or 2 tonight for sure.
The value ship has sailed for Alex Ovechkin anytime goal scorer props. I mean, minus 145 is just not the kind of price you typically see on a goal scorer prop. But when you're Alex Ovechkin, everybody knows he's trying to hunt down Wayne Gretzky in the all-time goal scoring lead, and he's on a red hot start to begin the year. You're not going to get bargains in a situation like that. Andrew, what are your thoughts here? Sabres and Caps.
Yeah, if there's any back checking props, just don't take them for those. But no, I'm just joking. But look, in this game, I got to ask you guys before I get my picks in this game. I mean, which dog do you guys think is most live? I think it's kind of a chalky night, and I know it's only a 3-game slate. But what about what do you guys think? Which dog is the most live tonight out of the 3 of them? I know the first game it's kind of Rangers are a short one, but I don't like them. And then in this game, I don't like Buffalo, and then I don't like the Kings off a couple wins. Not to spoil my next thoughts, but what about you guys? What do you guys think the most live dog?
I could see LA still beating Toronto because sometimes as good as Toronto's playing great right now. Everybody's scoring. We'll get to this in a second, but this is sometimes that spot where Toronto off a couple of big wins against teams they were fired up to play, and now they play a Western Conference team. This is sometimes that spot where Toronto just goes through the motions and they spit the bit. I've seen it many a time the last.
I'd agree with that actually. Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I would probably say Kings as well too. That's just a high price, and we know Toronto can lay an egg. Like I said, these other matchups don't seem to be that great, but that one seems to be probably the more interesting matchup of the 30. So.
Same
Make
thing,
it
Jimmy?
3 here, boys.
Yeah,
the hat trick for the Kings, because you know what else? Let's look at this too. Jonathan Quick is getting the start for the Kings in this, and he's facing off against his former pupil there.
Jack
He's a big mentor to Jack Campbell. I think he would like nothing better than to outclass the kid he taught and helped out along the way. So could be a cool little side story to watch there.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like
we'll get to that in a sec, that game. But
that was like
go
the quiz, Ian, TSN, the panel going around. My question of the day, which is the most live dog? But, I think that the Capitals that have a lot of really good teams we all know, I think they're a team that they don't really have letdown spots against crappy teams. I'm not that I really remember. I mean, every now and then they do, but especially off a few weak performances on their part as well. Just some pretty good teams. That being said, I think, like Jimmy said, watch out for this talent against Tokarski. I mean, I think it's going to be a huge one here for the Washington Capitals. I like that team total that Ian mentioned. I think this is a good example of a team total game. Who knows what Buffalo is going to give you? Let's just worry about Washington scoring us some goals. But I think it just sets up for a good spot. I'm not saying every time these two teams played, I would just bet on Washington, but off a couple losses, like Ian said, to good teams versus how Buffalo is just coming down to back to earth again. And it's been so funny, guys, following some of these power rankings for the advanced stats and stuff like that, seeing some teams just fall off. It's hilarious to me. Seattle, for example, they're number 2 in a lot of advanced expected goal stats. And I just can't wait until the next 2 to 3 weeks to see them slip down those leaderboards. But yeah, I think we're going to see, Buffalo just continue to regress, and teams like the Capitals and spots like this will take advantage of them. But I definitely wouldn't recommend someone, lining up to the sportsbook window and betting that minus 200 something. I think the team total is a good spot for it.
Yeah, the over 3.5, and it's only minus 110 to minus 120, at most places as well. So that's another thing. You keep the obviously you don't have to lay the money line price, and then you don't have to worry about if the Sabres contribute to the scoreboard or not going into this game as well. So there's definitely a few things to look at here. I think in terms of, Ovechkin's obviously been the guy. 10 goals in 11 games this year for Alex Ovechkin. He's been terrific. I might throw in on a Daniel Sprong goal scorer prop too, because this guy's had a ton of chances. Puck hasn't always gone in for him, but he's certainly generating enough offensively, and he's plus 300. So that's my if you're going to bet someone else on Washington besides Ovechkin, there you go. I gave you one right there, Daniel.
What are the odds for him not to score, Ian? Ovechkin, do you know?
Well, obviously minus 145 to score. So To not score would be plus 125 on the take back or thereabouts. So,
Yeah, around that. I mean,
as an
that's
underdog to not score against the Buffalo
as a
Sabres.
bettor, that's just tempting as it is. I mean, I wouldn't really want to cheer against the grade 8 not to score, but I mean, as a bettor, it's hard to. And I'm the one that always says that I don't mind laying like minus 110 for McDavid to score or something like that. But we're getting into the minus 130s and 40s for a guy to score a goal in a sport that has 3 lines of, or 4 lines of 3 people. I mean, that's pretty insane, guys, to think that we can get plus money on a guy not to score a goal. I mean, the Capitals could still put 4 goals up tonight and Ovi could not score. It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I don't
That's
know.
true. Maybe because you're playing Buffalo, it's going to open the. And I'll give Tokarski credit for the longest time in that game against Seattle, which was his last start. I think on Thursday last week, he kept them in it. I mean, he was shutting the door, but then the floodgates opened, and once they did, they didn't stop. So in that 5-2 Seattle win against Buffalo, that was Tokarski's most recent start. LA and Toronto, third and final game on this short Monday slate. We've got Toronto minus 260, home favorites, 5.5 the total, shaded to the over here. 2 streaking teams, 2 surging teams coming into this game. Obviously, the Kings, they have won 4 in a row. Although you look at those 4 wins, New Jersey, St. Louis, Buffalo, Montreal. I guess the only good win was St. Louis. Everybody else is struggling right now. But still, 4 wins in a row for the Kings. You can't take too much away from them. But Toronto, 5 in a row. And the last 3, Vegas, Tampa Bay, Boston. So not only wins, but quality wins. This is a tough one for me because it feels like this is the ultimate spot that we've seen from the Leafs, where sometimes after a couple of big wins against a mediocre opponent, they'll not play as well. They'll, just not be locked in for 60 minutes and find a way to lose. They've done this before, but I don't know if the Kings are going to be that team to take advantage of it for a multitude of reasons. One being they're banged up. They got a lot of key guys out right now. Arvidsson, Walker, and Doughty on the blue line are also out for this team. Velarde, who's one of their up-and-coming young prospects on the center ice position, is also out. So they've got some key injuries there, a little bit, LA. And it's Jack Campbell against his former team. And Jack Campbell, I believe, I'm either right. I know I'm not off by a lot when I say this, but Jack Campbell, I believe, is something like 12-1 or 13-1 as a starter at home for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, he has been almost unbeatable at Scotiabank Arena when he makes a start for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the goaltending he is delivering right now. I mean, these last few games, the Tampa game, some of the saves he made in the third period. The Boston game, when Boston was really starting to press, Boston made it 4-2. And by the way, Boston, they're not playing today. They're playing another day, but they've got defensive issues right now, that Bruins team. But when they made it 4-2, they were coming after Toronto. And Campbell had to make a couple of really big saves. And that's what he's been doing lately. Not just key saves, but really, really tough, difficult, high degree of difficulty saves. He's been doing that lately for the Leafs. And he's facing his former team. You always have that incentive that, hey, first time you play your old team, you want to beat them. So, yeah, it's kind of a bet against spot for the Leafs, but it's kind of a spot where I could see certain players on this team, particularly Campbell, rising up because he's playing his former team. So it's a tricky game all around. I'm passing. I mean, I'm not on LA, and I'm not obviously going to lay this kind of number with Toronto. And I've been on Toronto 2 in a row, but I'm just going to pass, stay away, and watch this game unfold here tonight. Alex, what do you think here, Kings and Leafs?
This is definitely a game worth looking at with in-game wagers, and something I'll have circled will be one of the first couple of times that LA takes a penalty and the Leafs go on the power play. It's one of the worst penalty kills in the league right now. LA has converted, at a 71% rate. So another thing to look at for a pregame bet would be, we talked about Austin Matthews. You don't want to lay a price with him scoring a goal. What you can do better is, if this is available at DraftKings, you can go over a half a point plus 140 for power play points with Austin Matthews. I think their power play will be able to get something going, and I think he'll be able to either get a goal or assist. So you're getting that at plus 140 with the man advantage. So power play points over a half. Austin Matthews plus 140. That's the only thing I like pregame. Everything else I'll be looking at when I'm watching it in game.
That's good.
I love those, Alex. Love those wagers.
Yeah, it's good to get creative with wagers like that in a game like this where you're talking about, you don't have to just, puck line or money line a team like Toronto when they're minus 250. Look for props, look
Right.
for other advantages with player props. And that one makes some sense because you're right. The Kings penalty kill has struggled and the Leaf power play has started to click a little bit their last few games. They've now scored a power play goal 4 straight games and they had 2 power play goals Saturday night against the Boston Bruins. So Leaf power play is coming to life, and they're moving that puck really well right now, and they're dangerous now. It seems every power play they get the last 4 games. They for the longest time they could barely get into the zone with their power play, which is a head scratcher with all the talent they have. But now they are, and they look like a dangerous power play unit again. This Leafs team. Jimmy, what do you think here, Kings Leafs?
Yeah, guys, you know what? I like the under in this. I know it sounds crazy, but like I said, I have a feeling 2 goalies could step it up tonight. And you mentioned Campbell, how brilliant he's been at home. Man, he was great. I know it was a 5-2 game the other night, but anytime the Bruins seemed to gather and any momentum and put a little pressure on, he was there to shut the door. He's looking great right now for the Leafs. And on the flip side, hey, give this Kings credit. I know they haven't beat the best teams all the time. You mentioned just St. Louis, but still give them credit. They're playing some great hockey right now. So I could see this as a tight, low-scoring affair. I like the under here, and I think another one to put on would be Mitch Marner to get a point. Mitch Marner is on fire right now, and I thought that was one of the better games I've seen him play in his career against the Bruins on Saturday.
He's got some confidence again, and all it took was the 1 goal to break the slump, and he scored again the next game, and now, yeah, Mitch Marner is starting to feel a lot more confidence about his game, and you're seeing it. It's amazing how different you play on the ice when you got some confidence again,
Yep.
and he's starting to get it back again, and it's just that timing and that feel for the puck, and all of that gets better when you start to see the puck go in for you. Any player in the NHL will tell you that, and we're seeing that now with Marner. Another thing I don't like about the Kings too tonight, even though this is sometimes that those type of spots that the Leafs can fall victim to. The Kings haven't won on the road, and they haven't played particularly well on the road this year either. 0-4, so they've got to try to overcome that here tonight if they're going to beat this surging Toronto Maple Leafs team. Andrew, what do you think here? LA, Toronto.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page as Jimmy. I kind of like the under for that reason as well. And I same as him, I find myself feeling weird about talking about an under 5.5 in a Leafs game. I've even been riding some overs to start the season with the Kings. But yeah, I think almost the fact that the Kings are feeling so good about themselves right now. You mentioned they didn't beat talented teams or great teams. Hate to say it, hate to hear it, because I know Montreal was in that discussion you were mentioning. But the fact is,
they are what they are. We're one of the worst teams right now.
Of course, I know. I know. But I like the under 5.5 here. I think it's a huge angle with the 2 goaltenders. But I got to give credit when credit's due. You guys know that I've kind of built a reputation of chirping the Leafs and joking around with them. But the fact of the matter is, I've actually been pretty impressed with their defense in some key games here. I think they've actually been taking care of the puck in their own end. And we saw when they had kind of an iffy start and everybody thought, everything was going to go crazy with their team. It's because they were, turning pucks over, defensemen were getting caught pinching up. And one thing I've noticed more, guys, is that it's kind of like they're pretty much telling the defensemen, hey, just stop pinching up. Like, we have so much talent up front. We don't need you. You know what I mean? We don't need you to contribute to our offense, and I don't know if you guys have noticed that too, but it's just something I noticed past couple games here for the Leafs where the offense just goes to work and there's kind of more of a stay-at-home defenseman mindset than there used to be for them. And I feel like it's led to a lot less odd man rushes the other way, and which is great for the Leafs. But I will say this, and this is going to sound super cliche, but if I always say this about the Leafs, they're guys that get paid half their salary. If they're not scoring, I don't really know exactly every night who is. Throw in Bunting, throw in this guy, but they're there for what they're there for. I mean, McDavid scored that highlight reel goal. What did he say after that game? He said, "This is what I get paid to do." And he wasn't. I don't even think he was being cocky. He's just like, "This is my job." And I think with the Maple Leaf players, this is when you want to ride them. Ride the Maple Leafs when the players that are supposed to score are scoring. Certain teams you can rely on, like the Islanders, to play a great defensive game. If some of their top guys aren't scoring, they're still going to win some hockey games. Last year, what the great thing about the Habs in the playoffs was nobody know who the hell what their top line was. One game Corey Perry would score, the next game Nick Suzuki would score, and I feel like that's the good and bad thing with this Leafs team. But I like the under, just like Jimmy. I think it's a good spot here for them, and I feel like they could grind out a low-scoring game. I wanted to mention, though, quick little DraftKings plug here. I know you have something coming up for us, Ian, but those prices are way better at DraftKings right now. Austin Matthews, I saw our pal Proline here in the chat saying minus 145 for Matthews anytime goal scorer. You can get him minus 110 at DraftKings to score a goal tonight. And you can get a minus 120 125 price on Ovechkin to score tonight. So pays to shop around, pays to have a good book. And to piggyback off what Jimmy was saying about Mitch Marner, one prop I started to get into these days, Jimmy, is just the assist prop, because it gives you even better odds, because with players so talented like Marner, you don't always get the best odds with just the point. But I know he's scoring goals lately, but it's kind of cool that, just grab the assist and hope that he's either a primary or secondary assist on one of the goals is kind of pretty good for pretty even odds.
Exactly. There's a DraftKings, and to be quite honest with you, it's not just because they're sponsors and they're on with THPN and they're with the Ice Guys. DraftKings is a damn good sports book for NHL. It is.
Yeah.
I mean, the options there are really good. As Andrew just mentioned, you get a lot of better prices there. So it's not hyperbole. And by the way, if you like the under in this game, bet it at DraftKings, because that's one of the few books that has 6 with the total right now.
Sweet.
For this
Jimmy and I will lock in 6.
Well, they've got some guys too, guys. I think, when they signed that deal with the NHL, they brought in some guys from the NHL offices that are working hand in hand with these guys at DraftKings. So they're gonna make it as good as possible there and really give you as many options as they can.
Do you think, Jimmy, they're gonna start doing boosts when in the arenas? I know the Washington Capitals were the first arena to have kiosks. I've never been there, but
I actually reported before the pandemic hit. It was right before the Bruins were getting ready to launch that in March 2020, but then there was the pause and then everything went haywire. So I know that the Bruins are going to do that at some point here. They're just waiting for it to become legal in Massachusetts to be able to do that. So
it's been a battle for your state, but once they get it, it's going to go well, I think.
Yeah. And Jeremy Jacobs is a catalyst behind a lot of that. So
what's the projection now? Do you know? Or it's too tough to say?
How many rinks?
No, for legalization for you guys in Mass.
They keep saying it's going to happen all the time. It never does. I don't know what the holdup is.
Dragging their feet is what's happening.
Yeah. It's politicians being greedy. That's all it is.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what it was too, that there's just a little bit of exactly.
I can drive 10 minutes down the road and I'm at the Connecticut border where I live now.
Really?
And I can sit there on my phone and do bets on DraftKings.
Can't do it in Massachusetts yet. Well, hopefully that changes for sure.
It was funny because
no question about that.
When I was in Vegas for the first time, there was for me, I can only do DraftKings daily fantasy. That's what you always say, Ian. Yeah, and the funny thing is, in Vegas, I was in an Uber, and the guy told me, Jimmy, he drives to Arizona or something like that. He drives to a border to play daily fantasy. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, I can bet on sports, but I can't do daily fantasy. I was like, dude, I can do daily fantasy, but I can't bet on sports. So it's just kind of interesting, the laws everywhere you go, I guess. This guy drives an hour every day.
Yeah. It all depends on where you are. It is. Each state's different. And obviously in Canada, you can only do daily fantasy for DraftKings. That's it. You can't do but that will change, I believe, at some point. It's just a question of when, not if at this point. But I want to say a special shout out and hello to Freddie from Sweden, who's in our chat here. So it's always great to see viewers and listeners from over in Europe. There's so many great hockey countries. We know the NHL is made up of Canadian and American teams and, fans primarily from those two countries. But let's not forget, there are a ton of people in Europe that follow the NHL, that watch it every night, that love the NHL, that'll stay up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. local time to watch all the NHL games. Do you do that, Freddie, in Sweden? You stay up late, watch the NHL. But thanks for joining us here. And we definitely have like I say, people love their NHL across the pond as well in Europe. And Sweden, great hockey country. You're going to see William Nylander and Rasmus Sandin tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Two very good Swedish hockey players playing for the Leafs tonight.
I couldn't imagine what it would be like. I have a friend that just went to medical school in Ireland, and it's 5 hours ahead of me where I am, and he's watching Sunday night football, and I was like, dude, don't you have school tomorrow morning, medical school? And he's like, yeah, it's 3 or 4 in the morning. I set an alarm for UFC events. He has to get up at 4:30 in the morning just to watch the events.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Great stuff. Yeah, someone asking in the chat. Yeah, this is work for us. This is our work for Andrew, for me,
Yeah.
for myself. Yeah, for
Yeah.
Alex, for Andrew, for me. This is our work. Doing this, doing shows, writing articles, betting games, week daily.
And
This is
Jimmy's putting betting stuff into his articles now too, which I saw.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's where it's at.
That's where it's at. And the content is king right now, and you're seeing it across the sports betting landscape right now. Great segue talking about DraftKings, because now's the time to talk about DraftKings. The NHL season is underway. DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL, has an unbelievable offer to celebrate the greatest sport on ice. You can take out the on ice part, the greatest sport. There you go. New customers can bet just $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. It doesn't matter if it's a one-timer or a deflection. However they score and light the lamp, you win. If DraftKings isn't available in your state, don't worry. You can still play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN. Throw down $1 on any NHL game and win $100 in free bets if either team scores a goal. This week, one puck in the net will net you a big win with promo code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, official sports betting partner of the NHL. Must be 21 years of age or older. Must reside in a DraftKings Sportsbook state. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So download that DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Sign up for an account. Take advantage of it and use the promo code THPN. All right, it is best bet time to wrap up the Monday edition of the Ice Guys. Alex, we'll start with you. What do you got for best bet?
I'm going to go with that Austin Matthews over a half point in power play points tonight in that Kings Leafs game. Like I said, I think this is going to be a spot where, especially looking in game for that next to goal score, probably try to tie that in as well. But I think the Leafs, if they get the job done, it's going to be resting on that power play, taking advantage of a pretty bad penalty kill system by LA. So that's my best bet.
There you go. Austin Matthews, power play point for player prop best bet for Alex B. Smith on this Monday card. Jimmy Murphy, best bet.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go with that prop on Mitch Marner to get a point. And I'm also going to throw in that assist one as well, as Andrew suggested. But give me that one to get a point.
All right, there you go. Mitch Marner to collect a point tonight against the LA Kings. Best bet for Jimmy. Andrew, best bet.
I'm going to go with the Florida Panthers. I think people are thinking it's a fishy line and it smells funny. We got some injuries and all that. But I think, one game rest after a pretty crappy ending to their road trip for the Rangers. I don't think this is the spot here where they say, hey, guys, let's get it together and bounce back against one of the best teams in the league. I just don't think it's the opportunity they're going to be able to do it. And I think we're getting a real generous price here. So on the Panthers here on the money line for me.
All right, Florida, -110 against the New York Rangers. Best bet for Andrew McInnis. And my best bet's going to be Washington Capitals team total over 3.5, -110. Buffalo's given up 4 goals now in 3 straight games to weaker offensive competition and competition in general than Washington. So I think Capitals get to 4 tonight. We'll go with that. Washington team total over 3.5, -110 for my best bet. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. We thank everybody for joining us. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live on YouTube 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and more. For Andrew McInnis, Alex B. Smith, Jimmy Murphy, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Monday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on Tuesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by the Hockey Podcast Network.